So as you guys on my community tab, just give me a player in the NBA that you think is overrated, maybe for your favorite team. I got 30 players here from 30 teams that you guys think are overrated, and I'm going to be giving you guys my opinion. Do I think they're overrated right now, or do I think maybe they're underrated, or just properly rated? And if you're overrated, it doesn't mean you're bad whatsoever. But if you think that maybe Jalen Brunson is the best player in the NBA, we all know Jalen Brunson is good, but if you think he's number one in the NBA, yeah, I think you're overrating him. And then if you take a bad player in the NBA and you think he's the worst player of all time and he's not, yeah, you're probably underrating him. So just keep that in mind and let's get into the video. So we're going to start off with the Washington Wizards, and Red Wings here thinks that CJ McCollum is overrated. He could still produce on a bad team, but he has become a total shot chucker who refuses to pass to the young guys and has caused so many fourth quarter meltdowns. So yeah, I could definitely see the reasoning for that right now, because when you're watching the Washington Wizards, you want to see the young guys. You want to see Bub Carrington, Alex Sarr, Keyshawn George cook as much as possible and get those reps in so you could stop being one of the worst teams in the NBA. And I do think at times CJ McCollum has been a little bit ball dominant this year. I don't think CJ McCollum is super overrated by any means. I think we just kind of know what he is at this point in his career. I think maybe in the later Portland days or maybe New Orleans, you could think that he was overrated, but I don't really think he's overrated right now. He's 34 years old. You're not getting much defense. You're not getting somebody that could be a number one or a number two, maybe even a number three on a good team. I expect CJ McCollum to probably get bought out from the Washington Wizards this year, unless like the Lakers can't get anybody for Maxi Cleveland, Gabe Vincent, and they're like, let's just do some type of swap. McCollum is still an elite three-point shooter in this league, but he likes to operate with the ball in his hands and off the dribble. He's not like a catch and shoot guy in the corner, but I do agree. I'd like to just see him off this team. Chris Middleton as well. No disrespect to those guys, but we just got to see as many reps as possible for the young guys going forward. Just trying to figure out what sticks in the nation's capital. I got a lot of interesting Golden State Warriors ones. This person mentions Jonathan Kuminga. Besides him, I don't think anyone on Golden State is overrated. Now, I got a ton of Brandon Podziemskis, and I actually got a decent amount of Jimmy Butlers. Honestly, Jonathan Kuminga could definitely be looked at as an overrated player right now. He thought he was going to get like over $100 million from the Warriors in the offseason. That didn't happen. I think his trade value has taken a massive hit this year as well. He's averaging just 12 points, 6 rebounds, 43% from the field, 32% from three. He's still just 23 years old, but I'm not really trying to give up any valuable assets for Jonathan Kuminga because I also have to pay him at the end of the season as well. I think there's a ton of risks to that. I just think maybe he's a completely overrated trade asset in this league. Maybe he's going to help you get to a larger contract because Kuminga is making over $20 million a year, but he's not headlining a Giannis Antetokounmpo trade or maybe even an Anthony Davis trade, in my opinion, or anything like that. You could make an argument that Jimmy Butler is overrated as well, and I don't think I can disagree with you on that one. We have watched Steph Curry time and time again have to carry the Warriors offense this season, which has not been great. And Jimmy was traded for last year to be that co-star to Steph Curry, but I think at times he's been way too passive. He's still an objective good player. Like Jimmy has been efficient this year. He's great around the rim, but I just don't think he's like 2023 Jimmy Butler or even close to that anymore. And maybe Brandon Podziemski isn't really overrated anymore. I would say maybe a year ago when he was headlining a Lowry Markkanen mock trade in the 2024 offseason, you could say that he was overrated. So yeah, if you said Jimmy or Kuminga, I don't think I could really disagree with you either. Vito mentions here for the Minnesota Timberwolves, it's actually Anthony Edwards, and it's because everyone wants him to be the face of the league. You know what? That's a fair argument, right? If you're going to say that Anthony Edwards should be the face of the NBA, you are holding him to a high standard. Like he's the next KD, LeBron, Steph Curry. But I don't know if we can go in that direction right now. So if you think he should be the face of the league, maybe that is an overrated take. But I just don't think that he's overrated as a whole. I think we all kind of look at Anthony Edwards as not like a top tier guy like Shea, Jokic, Giannis, but he's the tier below those guys. Like he's kind of in that Jason Tatum, Steph Curry, maybe a little bit better than like the KD, Brunson, Mitchell, Booker tier. I mean, Ant this year is averaging 28.7 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists on 50, 41, 83 splits. I still love his defensive motor. He's brought the Minnesota Timberwolves to back-to-back Western Conference Finals, beating the Denver Nuggets in 2024, the reigning NBA champions, beating the Lakers and the Warriors last year as well, with him being the best player on this Timberwolves team, a team that traded away his co-star Karl-Anthony Towns, and he still made it to the conference finals with Julius Randle. I got a bunch of Rudy Goberts. I got some Rob Dillinghams, Naz Reid, and Julius Randle. I think you can make an argument for all those guys being the most overrated Timberwolf. I just don't think you can go with Anthony Edwards. I think he's just been too good, and I don't think anybody's putting him in unfair conversations with Shea, Jokic, and Giannis. Cammy the Canadian mentions Chet Holmgren is treated like an all-NBA, all-defensive guy already when he's not a top 30 player in the league or a top 10 defender. He definitely has the potential to be there, but the Glazers are crazy. This one is tough as well because Chet Holmgren is a part of the best team in the NBA, and he's been a part of a good Thunder team since he's been drafted. He didn't have to go through the trials and tribulations of being on a bad team where you're just getting a demoralizing loss after demoralizing loss. Like, look at the situation like Brandon Miller got drafted into, or Bilal Coulibaly in Washington. Now, completely different players. Chet is better than those two players. It's just better for your confidence when you're drafted to a great organization like the Thunder. And I think it's a fair argument to say that Chet Holmgren is overrated, right? Because if you kind of put him on any other team, would he get as much hate as like an Evan Mobley or a Paolo Banchero, where he would have to operate as sometimes a number one option? But in OKC, he's kind of the number three option behind Shea, who can carry such an insane workload, and Jalen Williams as well. I don't think that he's an overrated defender, though. I think Chet's impact defensively, both on the perimeter and down low, cannot be matched by many other players in this league. I think he's a tier 1 big man defender. And if Wemby misses a decent amount of time this year, Chet Holmgren could end up winning Defensive Player of the Year. But if you want to say Chet as an overall player, just because he's in such a good environment in OKC, that could make him overrated. That's fine with me. But I think people like me at least consider that and not overrate Chet because of that reason, because I just don't know what the player he would be if he was drafted by like the Orlando Magic, or OKC didn't take him at 2, or they traded him away at one point. This person mentions here for the Phoenix Suns that basically everybody is underrated on the Suns or properly rated. Maybe it's Dillon Brooks, because in reality he's a ball stopper and turns the ball over, and he's not as hot of a shooter as he was at the start of the year. Still a great defender though. Yeah, I feel like the Suns are maybe the toughest team at this point, because going into the year we thought this team could have been really bad. It feels like everybody's overachieving or coming out of nowhere at the moment. I got a couple Devin Bookers as well, but I don't think anybody's overrating Devin Booker really on a national scale. Dillon Brooks, I think, has really kept this Suns team afloat this year. Now his antics may have costed them their game against the Lakers on Sunday night. You could say that was the refs. You could say that was Dillon Brooks. Either way, he kind of instigated a little bit towards the end. He didn't have to do that. Do I think he should have gotten ejected? No, but that's besides the point. Dillon Brooks this year is averaging 21.5 points, 3 rebounds, shooting about 45% from the field, 32% from 3, 83% from the free throw line. He gets the toughest defensive assignment every single night. You can't really say Dillon Brooks is overrated. Maybe in his mind, he thinks he's like a top 5 player in the league, which we know isn't true. So that would make him overrated in the mind of Dillon Brooks. But I think we all kind of realize what value he could provide you, and he could be a floor raiser. And if you're a team that doesn't maybe have title aspirations and you're just trying to get into the playoffs, Dillon Brooks could be that guy for you. And that's what he's doing this year for Phoenix. Because yeah, the Suns are a weird team right now where it feels like nobody's overrated on this roster. Ty Jones mentions here for the San Antonio Spurs, nobody's really overrated on the Spurs, but I think it's time to give up on the Jeremy Sochan experiment. Yeah, I got a ton of Jeremy Sochan ones on my community tab. It's weird that Jeremy Sochan is kind of no longer a main part of the San Antonio Spurs rotation. He played around 25, 26, and 29 minutes per game in his first 3 years. Now it's just 16 minutes a night. He's shooting about 60% on 2s, 28% on 3s, and his points per game was always between 11 and 11.6 in his first 3 years. That's down to 6.1 this year. I don't really know if he's that intriguing as a trade asset anymore. He might be a throw-in in a trade, given that he could be a restricted free agent at the end of the year, and I don't know if anybody's going to give him a multi-year deal, given that we haven't really seen him that much this year, because the Spurs have kind of valued those athletic wings, and Sochan kind of likes to slow the game down a little bit more. I think though he could be a very intriguing reclamation project if you do acquire him, maybe for the low. You give him a bunch of reps as your point forward, and if that shot ever comes around, he could be maybe the next Aaron Gordon, where he can really improve his value on a different team. Crazy Pete mentions that this is a hot take, that this season's Kevin Durant is overrated. His handle has literally fallen off a cliff. I haven't really noticed Kevin Durant's handle being too much different this year. I mean, when you look at his turnovers per game over recent years, it's been in line for pretty much what it's been in the 2020s, around 3 a night. It's actually the lowest it's been in the 2020s compared to recent years, but that's not the end all be all when you look at his handle specifically. It could just be a possession stopping or him struggling to beat better defenders. I mean, Kevin Durant is 37 years old. He's still putting up 25 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 4 assists. Now, if somebody came to you and said that Kevin Durant is the 5th best player in the NBA, I think that's overrating him. But I don't think Kevin Durant is overrated at this point. I think we give him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt given his age, but he's still playing like an all-star caliber player this year, in my opinion. I think when you look at this Rockets roster, if you had to go with maybe like an edgy overrated player, it could end up being Amen Thompson, who's a fantastic player. Don't get me wrong. He's one of the best defenders in the sport, but I do think he has some liabilities right now offensively that he's still trying to figure out, given that he's still just 22 years old. But I think you're splitting hairs at that point. I think everybody is appreciated on this Rockets roster at the moment, and that's why they are one of the better teams in the Western Conference. Jacob mentions here for the Toronto Raptors that it's probably Jakob Poeltl. He gets paid big money to not be a good rim protector, grab rebounds, and to do handoffs. The Raptors are better with Mamu on because he can actually space the floor. Now, I did not like this Jakob Poeltl contract extension in the offseason. I know that he had a $19.5 million player option for the 2027 season, so you wanted to lock him up before there was a chance that he could leave you for nothing. But man, I did not like the number on this extension whatsoever. He's slated to make about $27.5 million in 2028, $29.5 million in 2029, and then back down to $27.5 million in 2030 when he's going to be 35 years old. I could just already tell that it's going to be one of the worst contracts in the league in 2030. Now, I think Poeltl is a player that does a lot that doesn't show up on the box score. He sets some really good screens. He can kind of be physical around the paint and move defenders away for the RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, or Scotty Barnes driving lane. But yeah, the contract hasn't really aged the best so far this year. He has been dealing with some injuries, so you could say that's why Jakob Poeltl's production has been a little bit down in 2026. Now, you could say that Jakob Poeltl is a probably rated guy in the league. Nobody's really saying that Poeltl is a top 10 center, but when you look at that contract, yeah, it makes him overrated a little bit, in my opinion. I get why Toronto had to do it. They're not a big free agency destination. They wanted to get ahead of the market. I just think they were maybe a little bit too aggressive with this extension. Zion mentions here for the Detroit Pistons, he's going to say it's Caris LeVert. Even though his stats look good, he doesn't play within the offense and is a ball stopper lately. He's been better, though. He's not that overrated. It's more that most of the players have been properly rated or underrated. Yeah, I think Zion just kind of described the whole Caris LeVert experience that's pretty much been throughout Caris's 10-year career in this league. I feel like at times when he's on, he's one of the better sixth man or seventh man scorers that you can ask for. He's a solid passer in the half court, and he's a really good three-point shooter and has been a good three-point shooter over the last few years. But when it's not on for him, it's bad shot selection. Maybe he's not seeing the open man. Maybe he can't even operate out of the pick and roll. You're not running any actions for him, and he's not really known for his defense either. LeVert has averaged double-digit points per game every single year since his rookie year up until this year. So he's averaging around 9.5 points per night. Now, his efficiency hasn't been bad. I don't know why Caris LeVert can't knock down a free throw. But yeah, for somebody making $14 million, you could say that he's closer to Jordan Clarkson, who's making the veteran minimum. Butter mentions here that it's Herb Jones. Everyone thinks he's so good when he's not been that good over these last 2 years. This one is tough because I feel like if Herb Jones was on a different team, especially a team that was competing in a 7-game playoff series, maybe in round 2 and onwards, we would all see his true value because he was so good defensively in that 2024 season. And then unfortunately last year, like every Pelican, was banged up, only played 20 games. This year, he's been relatively healthy for a bad Pelicans team. He is not knocking down his twos or even his threes whatsoever. He's shooting just 44% on twos for somebody that's 6'7", that is an insane wingspan, and he's shooting just 33% on threes. But I just know if he ended up on a team like the LA Lakers, where you have so much gravity towards Steph, LeBron, and Austin Reeves, Herb Jones would get so many good looks because Zion has missed so much time this year. Teams are not double teaming Derek Queen yet. Maybe they should. So Herb Jones hasn't really had the most wide open looks in this 2026 Pelicans offense. I do think it's looked a little bit better starting the young guys and under James Borrego than it did at the start of the year. And I expect Herb Jones to fall in line a little bit more with what he did back in 2024. But yeah, based on his production, with the injuries included, you could say that he's overrated. The contract gets pretty hefty as well. I think it would be wise for the Pelicans to try to sell Herb Jones at the deadline and keep Trey Murphy. But to be honest with you, I think maybe Zion Williamson is a little bit more overrated. I know that we all know that Zion Williamson can't stay healthy, but he has not been good this year when he's been healthy, in my opinion. AK mentions here for the Indiana Pacers that it's going to be Andrew Nembhard. I think that's a fair take as well, just because going into the year, a lot of people expected Andrew Nembhard to take this massive leap with Tyrese Haliburton being out for the year. And Nembhard has been good. He's actually been really good as of late for Indiana. But he's another player that I think everybody kind of latches onto, a young guy that exceeded expectations right away that we think could take another leap in this league. Now, Andrew Nembhard has definitely exceeded every single expectations since he got drafted out of Gonzaga with the 31st overall pick in the 22 draft. Actually, a pick that the Indiana Pacers got from the Cavs for the Caris LeVert trade a couple years ago. Shout out to Ricky Rubio for that one. And this year, Nembhard's points have gone up with obviously Haliburton out. Nembhard has a higher workload. I think he's been really good as a passer. You would like the 3-point shot and maybe just 2-point shot to look a little bit better, shooting 46% on twos. I think that will come around. Sure, you could say Nembhard is maybe overrated if you think he's one of the better younger point guards in this league, given that he's already 25 years old. He's not really young anymore in terms of NBA standards. I think maybe you could look at Benedict Mathurin as overrated because of the points per game looking flashy, but will he impact the game other ways like Andrew Nembhard will? Or maybe it's Jarris Walker because he has not been good and he's only going to get rated highly because he was a top 10 pick in the 2023 draft. This person mentions for the Denver Nuggets, it's actually Cam Johnson. Now, I feel like the Nets have done this a little bit as of late with Cam Johnson, maybe Dennis Schroeder, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Mikal Bridges, where the Nets aren't a great team. They have these good role players or very high-end role players, low-end stars that are going to have a higher workload in Brooklyn. They stand out, their efficiency is great, and then they sell high on them at the right time. And maybe Cam Johnson was the next part of that because they traded away Michael Porter Jr. and an unprotected first-round pick for Cam Johnson, obviously valuing him very highly. And I think it's been a weird adjustment period for Cam Johnson in this Nuggets offense so far. His points per game were obviously going to go down, being the number 1 option in Brooklyn to now maybe the number 3 option in Denver. He's gone from 18 points per game to 11 points per game. I don't think he's been nearly as aggressive as he should be in this Denver Nuggets half-court offense. And I thought he would average maybe close to 15, 18 points per game playing alongside Nikola Jokic. And I think it has been better. They didn't trade for Cam Johnson for what he was going to do in November and December. They acquired him to see what he's going to do in April, May, and possibly June. But yeah, I guess when you're watching Michael Porter Jr. ball out in Brooklyn and you're seeing Cam Johnson average like 15 points less per game than Michael Porter Jr., you're not going to love that as a Nuggets fan. I still think Cam Johnson is a good player in this league, but given maybe what they gave up, his contract amount, maybe slightly overrated. I don't think by much though. Speaking of the Brooklyn Nets, this person is going to say that it's Cam Thomas for the Nets. And yeah, that's fair as well, because when you look at what Cam Thomas does in a vacuum, yeah, he's a very good scorer. He can handle double teams on the perimeter, and he can be a lights out 3-point shooter at times. But he can do that for maybe some of the bad teams in the NBA. But can he be a main contributor on a playoff team? Can he make an extra pass? Can he dive for a loose ball? Can he rotate defensively? Can he operate out of a pick and roll? Can he slash at the right time? Can he be just a meaningful off-ball player? Or is he somebody that is just going to be a ball-dominant guard in this league? That's why I think for Cam Thomas specifically, if he wants to maximize his next contract in this league, he's got to get traded to a team that will appear in the playoffs, that he could show all 29 other GMs that I could be a guy for you when it matters the most, because we haven't really seen that from Cam Thomas in his career. And if he doesn't get traded from the Nets this year, it's just going to be a lot of shot chucking in the second half, in my opinion. I still think Cam could be a good player in this league. I just think when you want to look and maximize your dollar amount, I don't think anybody's maxing out Cam Thomas at this point or giving him big time bucks to be a scorer for you. You need to see if he could be a complimentary piece. And honestly, Michael Porter Jr. has been too good offensively. I can't really say that he's overrated at all. So yeah, I'm going to agree with Cam Thomas as the most overrated net. Chili mentions here for the Dallas Mavericks, it is Derek Lively. He peaked as a rookie. And I remember when Derek Lively was talking maybe smack on Rudy Gobert and thinking that he's better than him. And Derek Lively has not been as good over the last 2 years than he was in his rookie year in 2024. Now, something he had in 2024 was one, health. He has struggled to stay healthy. He's had foot issues and just lower body issues, which is something that is scary for somebody that is 7'1", but also his main playmaker, one of the greatest playmakers of all time, Luka Doncic, got traded away. So he's not getting the best alley-oop looks. He's not getting amazing short roll looks that he was playing alongside Luka Doncic, which teams would blitz and double team, which would leave Derek Lively kind of wide open at times down below. And you're always going to look better too as a rookie because we've never seen you before, and we're going to assume that you're exceeding expectations as well. This year, Derek Lively was playing around 16 minutes a night in 7 games. He was banged up, averaging just 4 points and 5 rebounds. He's out for the year with season-ending foot surgery. So honestly, the standard we hold, and honestly, I'm going to agree with this one as well. You can make an argument it's Anthony Davis because you can't really rely on him to stay healthy. I think we all know D'Angelo Russell's flaws and maybe Klay Thompson's flaws at this point. So I think Derek Lively is a good shout. For the Orlando Magic, this was one of the more popular guys I got. It's Paolo Banchero. This person mentions that people disrespect Scotty, and I think he clears Paolo by a mile. And I really can't disagree with this person right now, because if anybody overrated Paolo Banchero in the offseason, it was probably me. I thought that Paolo Banchero could have been an All-NBA second-team guy and even flirted with being an All-NBA first-team guy. I thought he was going to be an All-Star starter. I thought if he stayed healthy, he was going to average over 26 points per game. Last year, though, Paolo Obviously had multiple injuries that he was dealing with. He only played 46 games, but averaged 26 points and was one of the better offensive players in the second half. This year, Paolo has also dealt with an injury, but he's healthy now, averaging just 20 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists, shooting 44% from the field, 26% from three, and 78% from the free throw line. When I was watching the Knicks play the Magic in the NBA Cup semifinals, I was not scared of Paolo Banchero with the ball in his hands whatsoever. I was more afraid of Desmond Bane as a shot creator, or in that first half, Jalen Suggs, because he couldn't miss before he got injured. And maybe this reminds you a little bit of what Paolo Banchero was last year for the Magic, where he came back in January. He really didn't look like the same Paolo Banchero we all saw in the first 5 games, where everybody was kind of crowning him as like the next breakout superstar, and he struggled when he came back with that injury, but then was so good when it felt like he was at 100% again. So maybe Paolo's not at 100% right now. It kind of looks like the same Paolo pre-injury, where he's settling for way too many jumpers. He's not playing like somebody that's 6'10". I have no confidence in his three-point shot whatsoever at the moment, and I think he needs to realize I am not a great three-point shooter. I should not be taking 4 threes a night right now, because he's 23 years old. He was the #1 overall pick. He just got a rookie max extension from the Magic in the offseason. He's been way too underwhelming this year, and I guess when you're just trying to map out the most overrated players in the league, just right now, current day in mid-December of 2025, you gotta mention Paolo's name. And for somebody that held him to such a high standard in the offseason, I can't really disagree with that. Jersey collection here says that the Lakers' most overrated player is Austin Reeves because of him being put into top 10 shooting guards that he doesn't belong in, and his foul biting needs to be talked about. Now, when you're talking about overrated players, it's tough to talk about an overrated Lakers player because this is the largest fan base in the NBA, so they're gonna overrate their players every single year. It's a tale as old as time. Austin Reeves has been overrated at times by Lakers fans in the past, but right now, I don't know. Austin Reeves, I think, might either be underrated or at least properly rated for the Lakers just because he's averaging 28 points per game. I think after his 2023 playoff run, he was definitely an overrated player. He didn't really break out in 2024. Even at times last year, you could maybe say he was overrated because he wasn't that big for the Lakers against Minnesota in round 1. But I think he's really shutting up those overrated talks. 28 points, 6.7 assists, 5.5 rebounds this year, 50% from the field, 37% from three, 87% from the free throw line on 9 attempts a night. I will say Austin Reeves sometimes has a very generous whistle. And unfortunately, right now he's dealing with a calf injury. I don't think the Lakers are going to get 3 All-Stars this year, but Austin Reeves definitely deserves to make the All-Star game more than LeBron. It's just a popularity contest. And obviously LeBron is the most popular player in the NBA, maybe of all time. So he's going to be an All-Star no matter what. But yeah, I think in years past, I would agree with you. Austin Reeves is overrated. I don't think he's overrated anymore. He may be underrated. RJ mentions here for the New York Knicks, it's Mikal Bridges only because he can't stay consistent. I don't know about this one. Now, when you look at the trade the Knicks gave up for Mikal Bridges, a crosstown rival of the Brooklyn Nets at the time, they were always going to have to pay a tax on that. They had at least 2 years left of Mikal Bridges' contract, so they didn't have to trade him in the 2024 offseason. So he was always going to go for a haul in terms of draft capital, and when you look at that return, maybe you think he could be overrated. The Knicks did give him a decent contract extension in the offseason, where he's going to be making over $35 million. From 2028 to 2030, he'll be making $41 million in 2030. The thing is, Mikal Bridges is as consistent as ever in terms of playing. He has never missed a game in his 8-year NBA career. He's got the longest Ironman streak in the NBA. He's been eligible to play for 581 regular season games, and he's played all 581. Like, that's insane, especially in the modern day with so many injuries, so many calf strains, so much load management. I've come around to appreciate that so much of Mikal Bridges. Now, he's not a 26 point per game scorer we saw in the second half in 2023 for Brooklyn after they traded Kevin Durant for him, but I still think he's just an amazing glue guy for the Knicks right now, behind Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. I could maybe see a Karl Anthony Towns overrated argument, but I think he's been in the league so long, we know what he is at this point. We know his flaws, we know his strengths. Maybe if you want to go with Mitchell Robinson because you don't think that the offensive rebounding is that important, maybe you go with Miles McBride, Jordan Clarkson. It's tough to go with the Knicks, and I'm always going to be biased as a Knicks fan, so I'd love to know who you guys think is maybe the most overrated Knick in the comments. Timothy mentions here for the Sacramento Kings, it is 100% Zach LaVine. I think that's fine with me at this point. I think we all know Zach LaVine's flaws in this league. You could also go with Domantas Sabonis. I think we know what his ceiling is as a player. Maybe it's DeMar DeRozan. It's definitely not Russell Westbrook anymore. But yeah, Zach LaVine making over $40 million this year. He's 30 years old. He was the headliner for Sacramento in the De'Aaron Fox trade. Now, watching the San Antonio Spurs beat OKC last Saturday in the NBA Cup semifinals and watching De'Aaron Fox play great, I'm like, damn, the return for De'Aaron Fox was Zach LaVine, Maxime Reynaud, and Nick Clifford, and a 2031 Timberwolves first-round pick. I think the Nets got a better return for Mikal Bridges. I'm questioning if the Memphis Grizzlies got a better return for Desmond Bane. And LaVine is still a great scorer in this league, maybe in a secondary or tertiary role, but he is not a number one at this point in his career. He's not a great defender. There are way too many lapses on that end of the floor, especially in transition. LaVine is a good player. You can make an argument he's overrated, and I can't really disagree. Dorgang mentions here for the Utah Jazz. I think he means overrated, but nobody really stands out as an overrated guy, which I get. And I got a ton of comments about the Utah Jazz not really having a specific guy that is overrated at this point. So I might go with Bryce Sensabaugh in a way, because I think me and a lot of people overrated him a little bit going into the year, because Sensabaugh could not miss in the second half last year for the Jazz. He could not miss in Summer League, and I was so excited to watch him this year as just a floor spacer for the Jazz. He's shooting 35% from three, which is still objectively good, but in today's league where that's like league average, I thought he was going to shoot over 40% from three. So I'm a little bit disappointed in that area of Sensabaugh's game. He's also not a great passer, not a great defender. So if he's not like this elite three-point shooter, he's not going to give you as much value as you think he should on an NBA court. And I think Keontae George has been fantastic for the Jazz this year. He's been one of the better young players in the league. I'll keep an eye out for him. If he ever gets like that mainstream media overhype, maybe he becomes overrated. Doesn't mean he's bad. Doesn't mean he's somebody you shouldn't build around. But if maybe he goes into like the Tyrese Maxey, Cade Cunningham point guard talks, in a way, he'll become overrated. But now, not at all. Alana mentions here that I got a ton of LaMelo Ball for the Charlotte Hornets. Because when you look at LaMelo Ball in a vacuum, right, over the last few years, I don't think he's been a good player objectively for the Charlotte Hornets, unfortunately. He was so good for them in his rookie year in 2021. He was so good for the Hornets in 2022. And then he's been fine, like a good, solid player for the Hornets over the last few years. When he's been healthy, that's the problem. He misses half the year, maybe even more than that, every single year. LaMelo Ball is being paid like a franchise guy, treated like a franchise guy in Charlotte. Over $37 million he will be getting paid throughout the next 4 years, fully guaranteed. $46.5 million in 2029. I think this is Con Knippel's team at this point. And once again, the ankle injuries have been an issue for LaMelo Ball this year. So can you even rely on him to play over 60 games in a year ever again in his career? He's shooting 38% from the field, 28% from three. It feels at times he's not a serious guy on the floor. Now, I think there is a defensive motor in his game still and a will to win. We just haven't seen it really since 2022, the last time Charlotte played a meaningful game. You can even make an argument Brandon Miller has been overrated. He has not been an efficient scorer whatsoever this year, and we're another year removed from his breakout rookie season. Miles Bridges, you could say, is overrated as well. And I want LaMelo to succeed in Charlotte. I still think he could be their franchise guy. We just haven't seen it in 3+ years. Dante mentions here for the Miami Heat, it's Bam Adebayo. He's a good player, but is always brought up in DPOY talks when he isn't at the caliber defensively as a Gobert or as a Wemby. Now, if you want to say that he's not in the Gobert-Wemby DPOY talks, that's fine. Wemby is just in a tier of his own defensively right now, and Prime Gobert, I think, has been a better defender than Prime Bam, but I disagree. I think there's still aspects of Bam's game. Maybe he's an underrated guy. Now, if you thought Bam could take like this massive offensive leap, he can average 26 points per game and be the guy in Miami, maybe that's overrating him a little bit. And I will say I've been a little bit disappointed in Bam's offensive game over the last 2 years, because I thought after they traded away Jimmy, he was going to be the guy that was going to break out. He could be a good floor spacing big, which we've seen over the last 2 years. He could be a good ball handler at his size. He could be a dominant physical force down low, but he's not taking more than about 14 shots a night. And since he's been taking more threes, the field goal percentage has dipped below 50%, but he's still shooting well on twos this year, about 55%, but taking 2 less twos a night. I just think Bam does so much that doesn't show up in the box score, being able to guard multiple positions on the perimeter, getting major defensive stops when it matters the most late in the fourth quarter, which doesn't show up in the box score. And that's where I got to disagree here. Maybe you can make an argument for Tyler Hero. Maybe you can make an argument for Andrew Wiggins or Jaime Jaquez, but you're splitting hairs at those points. I don't really think those guys are overrated. So maybe Tyler Hero, I can hear an argument there. I don't think Bam Adebayo is overrated at all. This person mentions for the Atlanta Hawks, it is Trae Young, another popular guy I got on my community tab. Trae Young being overrated is fine. I mean, Trae Young was not good this year in 5 games. It was such a small sample size before being out with the knee injury. Hopefully he's going to be back soon. The Hawks have been solid as of late with Jalen Johnson being the guy in Atlanta. Now, Trae Young is an offensive player you can maybe say has been overrated just because he shot 41% from the field last year, 34% from 3. He usually gets off to bad starts every year and hasn't really brought the Hawks to being a serious playoff team since 2021. But I think Trae Young gets way too much hate. I don't think he's overrated. I think for what he provides as an offensive engine for Atlanta, especially last year when Jalen Johnson was hurt, the whole DeJounte Murray experiment didn't work out 2 years ago. I think it kind of made Trae Young underrated. And honestly, his defense isn't good still, but I don't think it's as bad as it was like earlier in his career. So maybe his defense has become slightly underrated. He's a hard player to match out. He's always been a polarizing guy in the NBA. He just might be like neutrally rated right now. Now, this was probably the most popular guy I got. Extreme caution mentions here for the Memphis Grizzlies, Jaren Jackson Jr. He's literally the definition of the idea of him is better than who he actually is as a player. Yeah, so I got a ton of Jaren Jackson Jr. I actually got a decent amount Ja Morant as well. And I can't really disagree with the Jaren Jackson Jr. overrated statement right now. Jaren Jackson Jr. just got a massive, and I mean massive contract extension from the Memphis Grizzlies in the offseason. $35 million this year, still a good salary. $49 million in 2027, $50.5 million in 2028, $52 million in 2029, and then $53.5 million in 2030 when he's going to be about 30 years old. He was the youngest guy from that 2018 draft class. And yeah, right now, Jaren Jackson Jr. has not been a great offensive player or a good offensive player at all this year for the Memphis Grizzlies, averaging 16.5 points per game, which is the lowest it's been since either 2022 or 2019. He's averaging 4 fouls a night, which is almost at his career high, still just 5 rebounds a game for somebody that is 6'10". The same issue that's been very persistent in Jaren Jackson Jr.'s career is still there. He's not been more physical at all down low, even though he got paid a lot more money. He's shooting 46% from the field, which is the lowest it's been since 2022, 32% from 3, and just 53% on 2s for somebody that's 6'10". Yep, the way he's getting paid now, the standard we hold Jaren Jackson Jr. to after how good he was last year, after he won DPOY in 2023, you could definitely say that he's been overrated, and I can't really disagree with you. Most mentions here for the LA Clippers, it's actually James Harden, the beard. I don't know. This one I can't really agree with too much just because James Harden at times, especially last year, kept this LA Clippers offense alive when Kawhi Leonard was out and being a good number 1 and Norman Powell as a number 2. This year, James Harden is going into year number 17. He's 36 years old, and he's averaging 26 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists on 44, 37, 90 splits for the LA Clippers this year. He's been objectively a really good offensive player, in my opinion, for the Clippers. And he's got a 63% true shooting, which is actually the highest in his career. So maybe this is the most efficient James Harden has ever been. The Clippers obviously have so many issues this year. I don't think it's been James Harden. Now, Kawhi Leonard is an interesting guy because he's actually been pretty good as of late, but when you need him to be a reliable guy, has he been that? Could that make him overrated? Maybe people overrated Ivica Zubac too much last year. The Clippers were a weird team to talk about. Adam David mentions here for the Boston Celtics, Derek White became overrated by everyone. Also, something I can't really disagree with too much either. I do think Derek White was like that perfect role player for a little bit and then became kind of like a borderline all-star at times for the Boston Celtics in the 2024 and 2025 seasons. Now, we expected Derek White to step up as a number 2 for Boston with Jason Tatum out. Jaylen Brown has stepped up as the number 1, and Derek White is getting paid about $30 million over the next 4 seasons on a per year basis. So you'd like for Derek White to maybe be a little bit better than 38% from the field, 33% from 3, and 47% on 2s this year. Derek White has been better as of late for Boston, and maybe it was just a slow start for the guard. So sure, maybe Derek White is overrated if you think he's one of like the 30 best guys in the NBA, 35 best guys in the NBA, but I think we all still know the true value that Derek White gives Boston, which goes on full display when they get to the playoffs. This person's a little bit harsh about Jared Allen, calls him a make-a-wish all-star, said it himself that he can't perform when the lights are bright. So I got a ton of Evan Mobley's, Darius Garland's, and Jared Allen. I'm going to end up talking about Jared Allen because Allen's a good player. He averages around 14 points. The rebounds are a little bit down this year, just 7.3 a night. He has been dealing with some injuries, which could affect that. His physicality down low, his willingness to absorb contact compared to years past. He's getting paid a decent amount of money. $20 million this year, then it goes up to $28 million in 2027, $30 million in 2028, and $32.5 million in 2029. I do think Cleveland will be better suited with Evan Mobley at the 5, and we can't get there until they trade away Jared Allen, who's 6'9", and maybe isn't as good of a rim protector as the guys like Wemby, Chet, Rudy Gobert, Bam Adebayo are at the top of the center position. He's still just 27 years old, and you can make an argument he's overrated. I can't really disagree with you there, and I do feel like we're heading to a point where he could get traded this year, or Darius Garland, given that the Cavs are 15-12 and have been underperforming compared to their 64-win season in 2025. And Dog mentions here that it's Kobe White, inefficient shot chucker, who takes touches away from the offense. Also, just another harsh comment here. Yeah, maybe Coby White could just be slightly overrated just because he's not going to give you that much value defensively. He likes to be a ball-dominant guy at times, and if he's going to shoot 43% from the field and 27% on threes, he doesn't have much value as an offensive guy, and he's going to be a high-volume, low-efficiency guy that can really hinder your offense as a whole, and the Bulls have been one of the worst teams in the NBA over the last few weeks, which does coincide with Coby White returning, taking touches away from Josh Giddey and Ayo Dosunmu in the half court. Now, Coby White was hurt at the start of the year. He's only played 9 games. I think he'll be more efficient. But maybe if you ask the Chicago Bulls, who have Coby White's last year of his contract under their belt, where he could be a free agent at the end of the year, and they're asking for a Desmond Bane type return for him, yeah, then we're overrating him a little bit. Tiffany mentions here, for the amount of money he got paid, Miles Turner. Now, I think Miles Turner is also another guy that's a little bit more impactful than the box score shows. He's shooting 37% from 3 this year, 12 points, 5 rebounds, and the Bucks defense and just overall team is better when he's on the court. It's unfortunate that we haven't really been able to see him and Giannis Antetokounmpo too much this year. They're plus 8.4 in terms of net rating in 347 minutes, and Turner's built a really good connection with Giannis this year, and that's what we wanted to see as a whole. But yeah, given that they stretched and waived Damian Lillard to go out and sign Miles Turner, and they gave him over $25 million a year for the next 4 years, you could say he's slightly overrated. For the Portland Trailblazers, this person mentions that it's Shaedon Sharpe so far, a lot of big games and flashy highlights, but the shooting, advanced stats, and turnovers over long periods are not ideal. And yeah, Shaedon Sharpe got paid a nice extension from the Portland Trailblazers in the offseason. I actually thought it wasn't a bad deal for both sides, given that it was roughly 4 years, $90 million. And he's still just 22 years old. We give that grace to young players, but you would like to see him take a little bit of a leap. Now, Sharpe got off to a slower start this year. He has been coming around for Portland, having really good games against the Golden State Warriors, where he went toe-to-toe with Steph Curry on Sunday night. He had a really good game in their loss against the Pelicans as well, in a lower usage role. And Thiago Splitter has taken him out of the starting lineup. He's just recently put him back in, so I wonder where this is going to look going forward. I think he's looked the part over the last few weeks, maybe because of the potential we have in our minds. He's overrated, but I'm just going to keep an eye on this one because I think he's going to come around and play up to his contract as we get into the new year. And then lastly here for the Philadelphia 76ers, this person mentions that it's maybe Tyrese Maxey. Part of me believes that there are a decent number of players in the league that could average as much as Maxey if they were also leading the league in minutes, which honestly with the modern NBA, that's not a terrible take. We're seeing scoring at an all-time high. Lauri Markkanen, Austin Reeves, and these guys are averaging close to 30 points per game. But I think Maxey has done so much, and I honestly think it might be more impressive that he's playing a league high 39.9 minutes a game, which is insane for somebody this early in the year. 31.5 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists a night, 1.7 steals, 47% from the field, 39% from 3, 88% from the free throw line on about 8.5 attempts a night. He's got a plus 60% true shooting percentage as well. And we haven't really seen a ton of Maxey, Paul George, and Joel Embiid as of late. I think Maxey has just done so much for Philadelphia. I can't really call him overrated. And that is going to be it for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, I'd appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Let me know down below what you guys think of this video. Do you agree, disagree with anything I said, or what you guys said? And let me know if you guys want to see the opposite of this, every team's most underrated player as well, which I'll definitely be asking you guys who I should be talking about in that video. So make sure you are subscribed, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.